obviously in the era of the high-flying quarterback in the NFL, the talented quarterback in the NFL, but what's happening in the league isn't necessarily attached to their ability to throw the football. Really, the most dominant aspect of theme-wise going on in the NFL right now is return of the run game. Marcus Spears is going to love this one, so we're going to start here. Right now, league-wide average this season in 2022, yards per completion is at 11 yards. Look at this number for home. That's the lowest since 1933. We're talking 90 years. That's the first year they started playing playoff games. So every completion in the NFL is the lowest amount in 90 years. So what's that mean for the run game? Overall, the league is averaging 4.5 yards per carry. That's the highest in NFL history. Think about that. Completions are down. Run game, at least, is average, is all the way up. So what's that doing? The league-wide scoring average is 21.8. That's the lowest in 13 seasons. What we're seeing right now in the NFL, even though these quarterbacks are wildly talented, is the importance of running the football, being committed to doing it well, and that's really shaping how well your football team can win and play games offensively, not how far the quarterback can throw the football.
So, Marcus, from the D-line perspective of this, as you hear Dan's offensive side, you know you love the run game, but how have D-lines affected what these offenses are doing?
You know, I go back to when you and I were covering SEC Network, and I had a conversation with Nick Saban about how differently he had to start recruiting because of the way offense was morphing into athletes in space and quarterbacks getting the ball out of their hands quickly, and you had to have dudes that were athletic enough to pursue from behind, and you had to have long, rangy linebackers in order to cover these tight ends who were now being ushered into offenses as being premier guys, as we still see with Travis Kelce and obviously talking about Goddard, who just got injured. When I was even in the league, your D tackles were 350. They were space eaters. They were our job, even when I was playing in a 3-4 with Bill Parcells, our job was to absorb offensive linemen so linebackers could run free, right? That was the way you stopped the run. Now today, you got Aaron Donald playing D tackle at 275, who can backdoor and is fast enough at times to get down the line of scrimmage to get it back on the ground. But when you miss, it's a gap the size that you could drive a bus through. So now what we're seeing, a part of this run game, one, you don't practice it enough. I've been telling you that. Two, you don't have the guys physically that can sustain 40 runs a game. They're just not built like that anymore. I.e., to your point, why do you think that when Jordan Davis is on the field for the Philadelphia Eagles, the run game is minuscule as opposed to him being out?
One of my notes was written down was, when was the last time a defensive tackle was come out in the draft that was really good and he was young and we called him a space eater? We don't talk that way.
Don't say it anymore.
It's can he get to the quarterback, right? Can he get to the quarterback? That was one of the things I wrote down. That's why teams offensively, we know that. That's why we're going to continue to attack you with the run, because you don't have the guys that can stop it consistently.
Absolutely.
Well, I think everything catches up, right, to what's the main thing. And when you are morphing offensively into these spread offenses and you're throwing the football around, now defenses morph as well. Right now, defensively, I don't want the defensive end. I don't want Reggie White. I don't want Michael Strahan. I want Von Miller. And that's why guys like T.J. Watt can be the defensive players of the year, because they're fast, because they're agile, because they can bend, because they're quick. And also think about the back end now. All we're teaching these kids is footwork. We're teaching these kids technique, right? Like my son right now can coach in the NFL as a defensive backs coach, because that's all I've ever taught him is how to play the position. And so now we're seeing the Patrick Surtain Juniors, we're seeing the Jalen Ramsey and these long, rangy guys who have technique, skill, athleticism, and you can minimize some of the great players on the outside. But what you can't do is now when you move inside and you say, you know what, it used to be I want Roy Williams, but now I got to get somebody that can roll down on the slot. Now I got to go get Quay Walker or a backer that can match up with the tight end. The one thing we used to praise in football was physicality. We no longer praise that. And so now when the offense says, oh, you got this guy so he can run sideline to sideline, let's see if he want to get punched in the mouth.
RC, I totally agree. So I think one of the parts of this is that defenses have way more answers for coverage, or the pass game.
Absolutely.
They got way more answers. We see the middle field open that we've talked about. We see the match coverage that we talked about. I look at it like this. Teams play so much nickel defense right now. Like 65% of the league lives in nickel when it comes to snaps. And the nickels that come into the NFL, they're their number one goal or ability is coverage.
Yeah.
Not like I grew up in the era, and this like Antoine Winfield.
Monster.
He was
a killer.
He was 50-50 though.
Yep.
He could cover
hit
and he could hit. Nowadays, when I want to get you as a defense into nickel, because I'll run right at you, because I know you might win one rep. But I want to see if you can play
over and
35
over
run
again.
snaps as a nickelback, since you want to live in that.
Yep.
Let's get Mina Kimes in here. Mina, what do you see
Hey,
in
Mina.
your numbers?
Hey. Hi. Yeah, my first thought was, okay, well, what is quarterback rushing production? How is that factoring into this?
Sure.
And it is a big part of the reason why rushing overall is up. But even when you take out quarterbacks, runs only by running backs are up on early downs. So my second reaction was, well, are they running into more light boxes? That's also a league-wide trend. And they weren't up as much. They're up a bit on early downs, but not as much as I thought. What has changed dramatically, and this is what I think is a pretty big factor, is the types of runs we are seeing on early downs. League-wide, so far this season, outside zone and inside zone are down, gap runs are up. And not only are they up, guys, they are way more productive on early downs. Look at those numbers on power and counter. And if you don't like yards per carry, success rate is also way up. To me, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on this, I have to think this is a response to some of the changes defenses have been making. When Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and the Shanahan scheme became, more popular in the NFL, you saw more defenses. We talked about this, leaning on those bear fronts, ways to stop zone runs. And as you guys know, the counterpunch, no pun intended, is gap runs.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.